Welcome back, Warriors whānau, to another episode of One Take, the official podcast of the One New Zealand Warriors. No Jacko here today. Lucky bloke, he stayed over in Aussie. He's milking it for all it's worth. But we're joined again by the legend, Monty Betham. Had him on a couple of weeks ago, but he's back to talk some footy. So cheers for jumping on, Mons. How are you, bro?
Good, brother. I'll come off the bench for Jacko.
Hey,
what a life he lives, man. But yeah, I am good, but I'm still sort of up in arms a little bit about Tuesday night. So proud of the boys and their efforts, which is unreal. Some of the calls on the night, I can't go into much detail because I am an ambassador of the club. This is an official podcast, but wow. There's a meme going out there, right? And if you've seen it, I know you've seen it.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
You tell me about that meme.
You know, the old Riffy, 100%.
Riffy.
Shout out to Tav. That was one of the great calls. She's gone viral as well. But we will start there. Obviously, as a fan, you finished the game. You're proud of the boys. You're also a bit gutted because it's another week where we haven't been able to finish with like our best players out on the park. Gets a little frustrating, but man, did we dig deep. We didn't roll over for the full 80 despite all those circumstances. So when the full-time whistle blew, what were your initial thoughts and feelings?
Oh, look, I was a little bit down, but it was sort of going through the whole game. It didn't just happen. I didn't just come to a climax with that decision. I was there on Monday seeing the captain's run before they flew out and just seeing how upbeat they were, how energised they were with the challenge ahead, and even just hearing, what Webby had to do in terms of his final messages, the game plan against the Melbourne side, and to sort of see it with that start with the full boys on board, the full 17, it was all working. It was all going to plan. But, there was a lot of calls. And, look, this game is hard enough to play without missing your players. 10 minutes at 12 men. But then also, with the last 9 minutes to go, you've got no one on the bench. That's unheard of against a very good Melbourne side at home.
You touched on the start there. What was 12-0 and then 22-12. It seems like over the past couple of weeks, we've got better starts, and that was a big worry for the Warriors in those first few weeks. What do you think it is? Is it like a shift in mindset, or is it just things falling into place?
Well, it's interesting that Webby went away from harping on about starts, and he went more to the full 80 minutes. And I love hearing Webby speak and how he talks to the boys, his delivery of his messages and his insight to what is going to make you better. It's like he's got a psychology degree or something. He's got a real way with the boys, and that's another way about it. Instead of harping on about trying to execute one particular start or start of the game, he starts moving the emphasis to somewhere else, which means, being a bit more complete, thinking about the overall picture, and by doing that, the start will hopefully be a lot better, and we've seen that be a lot better and needed to be better. If we think about the corresponding game last year, 70 points to 10, blown away from the start. So it was great to see, man.
Everyone talks about how good this team is at facing adversity. Obviously, we lost Tohu, our skipper, Jazz, Chance, Bailey, down to 0 on the interchange. How hard is it to kind of flush that mentally? We saw some boys digging deep, Bunty and co playing a lot bigger minutes. Can you touch a bit on that? No bench. How hard is it to stay in the fight?
Well, it's hard when your tip of the spear, which is your captain, who is one of your key guys in the middle of the field in every way. He gives you such sense of security and relaxes you, calms the nerves when he's in the middle of the field. The voice is one thing. The big body in the middle of the field playing the role that he does is also another big part of this Warrior side. When he's out there and he's that link between the forwards and the backs, also that run threat, but also that short passing game, it's really hard. And I know when your leader goes off the field, that extra voice you're used to hearing that helps you in those crucial times is really hard. But it didn't stop there, just kept going. And then you got Walker, who's one of your other experienced guys who got 10 minutes in the bin. It does make it really hard. But, what we're seeing from the side the whole way throughout the year when they face adversity is that they just carry on. What's next? They get on with the job. We love that resilience. But, obviously they couldn't help the injuries and everything that happened. But in other days, in other games gone past, you just got to make sure that that resilience and that fitness that you do have is used to win games and to put your foot down and be relentless rather than to stand games.
There's a handful of standouts for me, guys like Adam Whanua-Blake with those Shakira hips and the footwork, dotting down
don't
again.
Lie, baby. Hips don't lie.
Is that 2 tries in 2 weeks? It's crazy scenes. Then Freddie, he tackled all game long. SJ pulled the strings perfectly, and I thought Dal was unreal at the back as well. His work rate, getting us out of our end on those sets. Was there anyone else that kind of really stood out for you?
Those are exactly the same guys that I was going to talk about. I mean, look, Adam Whanua-Blake close to 180 metres. He scored a try, hips don't lie, Shakira style, through the post, untouched, 40-odd tackles. He's in the middle of the field. He's that presence as well that you need to have, and he played some extra long minutes, which was brilliant. Through the second half, Melbourne Storm came out and they really turned the screws. The kick pressure on Shawnee, and he still kicked well throughout, which was huge and why they stayed in the game. But what he was able to do was huge. He came on and changed the game in Asafa Solomona. But like I said before, the line speed, the wrestle in the ruck, it was really apparent in their second half. And I think they got a bit of a dust up from Bellamy in the sheds at half time, because I tell you what, in their first half, there was moments there where it didn't look like a Melbourne side. They looked flustered, they looked panicked, and they were talking like that. The body language showed. So if you can do that, put such a really good quality team on the ropes like that, it bodes well for the future, man.
Another player who's been impressive for me, Tommy Ali, and I always speak about him, but another week, I think he's made 122 tackles this year and he hasn't missed any, which is a crazy stat. How impressed have you been with the emergence of him off the bench? Because every week we see Weeby giving him a slightly bigger role and he looks really impressive.
Well, it started last year, right? He really took his chances last year and he played really well. And he's not a tall boy, so he's a small body, but he's very compact, powerful and explosive with good feet. So those guys are sort of the hardest to tackle in the middle of the field, especially when they come on fresh and you've been a little bit more fatigued with the six agains and everything else. And when you have a different shape running at you with leg speed and everything else, it changes up the timing. So when you're in a defensive line, you're coming forward, you got those plotters who come down the middle. Sometimes it's easier to tackle, but when you have that change up, fresh, powerful, stocky, not much of a target height to hit, it makes it impressive. But I've been very impressed with them. The missed tackles, that's okay. When you're in the middle of the field, you probably don't want to miss many tackles anyway, because it's a little bit easier. You've got the guys in tied up with you. But still, there's some big bodies out there to tackle and some very good names that have played representative football. So to do that and to be so impressive, he's really shining, man.
It is a Warriors podcast, but you touched on it before. Nelson Asafa Solomona, his injection kind of really changed the game through the middle of the park. It's just our luck, I reckon. We always play these teams when their best players are coming back out for the first time in Yonks. But what do you make of Nelson, bro? And as an opposition player, how scary of a sight would it be seeing him charging at you at full flight?
And he changed the game. He loves playing against the Warriors, which is something that I don't like. But I love that he's a big man and he knows he's a big man and he's aggressive with it and he throws his body weight around. He absolutely changed the game, and I'm glad he stayed on in our game, signing for Melbourne for another 4 years, but hopefully he doesn't play too many against us Warriors because we know how well he plays. But look, he's a wonderful player, mate, and what he's come on. And when you think about that Melbourne team over the years, guys like Nick Hine, Asafa Solomona, they probably didn't get the credit that they deserve. You thought because they're a part of the Melbourne system, they're that good. But when other guns move on and you're left with Nelson and he can change a game like that, something that Harry Grant and Munster and that normally do or get credit for, it just shows you, the Kiwi team and us Kiwis here are of really good talent, man.
The whole ANZAC clash, it's a pretty impressive spectacle. Like in the lead up, the 20, 30 odd minutes prior, you're sitting at home watching as a fan on the couch. You got the goosebumps, the spine's tingling. As a player, how hard is it to go through that like extended build up? Because obviously it's a lot more than what they're used to. You kind of then need to flick a switch, reset, because it's all quite emotional, and then focus on the game. Is that a different challenge?
Well, I think it's something that you're not used to at the NRL because it's not what you normally see. If you've played test match football, if you've played finals footy, you get a little bit more of that. Probably not the same sort of emotional build-up that you have with ANZAC, so it's probably nothing like it. And Melbourne do it so well with the light shows, with everything that's done pre-game and just before you deliver. So I think the boys got the mix right, enjoying that time, remembering those who have served for us, being grateful for the service people of today as well, but then switching into the mode, it's us against them. A long time ago, we served together, and that's great. But now it's time to go to war against the Australians or the opposition, and they got the mix so right this time.
For sure. And you mentioned Melbourne do it well, and they do it well, but I have this feeling in my heart that Mount Smart would do it pretty well too. As a Warriors fan, an ex-player, a club legend, how good would it be to see the Mount Smart packed out ANZAC Day, 24,000 fans? I think it'll be a pretty special spectacle.
Well, I had Brent Tate on my podcast the other day, Once a Warrior, and he was talking about the blackout game here against the Roosters. Full stadium, all black, and I'm sure we could do the very same thing over here. I mean, we'll still pay tribute to the Australians because obviously they fought together many years ago. But if you think about a tribute to our soldiers, that have fallen, and those our service people today, it would be a huge spectacle, and I've no doubt they will sell out Mount Smart. And you know what? I think it's time. I do think the NRL owe the Warriors, rather than playing 3 games in 11 days, why don't we just get a home game here for ANZAC, at Mount Smart Stadium? I think it would be huge.
You touched on the short turnaround there. Obviously, we take on the Roosters this weekend. How hard is it as a player, I guess? Obviously, you'd be a bit gutted the result didn't go your way, so you got to flush that as well. The body's sore. You factor in the travel. How hard are those 5-day turnarounds to get yourself back up?
Well, it is hard. And, some of the signs I saw after the game immediately when you saw Adam Whanua-Blake and Shawnee sitting down discussing what they've seen and what they could have done better, reflecting on the game almost immediately, that's really, really good signs, because you need to get those through your head and then put it away, because you can't dwell on the game or the opportunity that you just missed, because then you've got to travel again the next day. And I know the boys have a day off today as well. So their time is limited building up into the game this weekend, although the Roosters played as well, but their travel isn't as bad, and they're going to come over a little bit earlier, I believe. So I think there are a couple of training days at Sacred Heart College. Yeah, Sacred Heart. I might be down there spying.
Yeah, there we go.
Look, it's it is hard, but you just got to get up. And you got to do it again. It helps that you're at home. The Warriors support has been amazing. So if you guys can get down there and support the boys again on Sunday, I think the tickets are limited anyway.
I think she's almost a sellout already, right?
But I mean, for the guys at home, you got to understand how much you play in the hearts of the players when they get up, when they hear you, when they run out, when your voice is there and heard at Mount Smart. It is hugely appreciated, man, and it makes them play better. So that's going to happen them this week. No doubt they'll be tired, man.
Yeah, let's pack out the fortress. And then post-game, Webby made some good comments about how proud he was of the effort, that next man up mentality, and we go again. As a player, does that kind of help revitalise you as well, refresh you a little, and just think, we got to pick ourselves up and go again?
It's great. I don't believe I've seen that over the years here at the club. Even in my time as a player, as a captain, everything else, it's like, we don't have this guy this week. You dwell on it for a little while. You try and throw it away or put it in the back of your mind, but sometimes it always surfaces. But I really do believe that that is the mentality, and everyone's taken that on board within the squad. Okay, who's next? I did question the depth early on before the season kicked off, but that depth has been tested already, and that depth has shown that it is quality. And don't forget, our cup side is now number 1 after a huge win against the Eels in the weekend just gone, and just out Mount Smart before the last home game against the Dogs, or one of the home games against the Dogs. When they were on top, they beat them. So, there's a good culture in the club, and everyone's waiting for the opportunity, and they're standing in the wings, and they're ready to take their chances. So, man, it is good. It's one thing for Webby to say. It's the next up mentality. It's my turn. But it's another for the players to believe it. But they truly do believe it, man.
Exciting times. We'll touch on the Roosters because obviously we're taking them on this weekend. They're coming in off the short turnaround as well, and that was a heck of a game to watch. A bit of an entree before the main event on Tuesday night, but for me, they've been a bit of a roller coaster so far. They're stacked on paper, but they probably haven't been too fizz with their performances. Leading into this weekend, what are those kind of main threats that you'll be looking out for in that Roosters side?
How many threats have they got across the board?
It's crazy.
I mean, Cheese hasn't played the best of his ability, but as we saw with Nelson and Solomona and all the Kiwis that come up against the Warriors, they really saved their best, for this crew, for the Warriors, and being at home. They love playing at home as well. You know, when you think our boys love playing in front of a packed crowd, so do they. They're Kiwis, very patriotic. So, Cheese hasn't been at his absolute best. He's still finding his chemistry with his players. So I think he'll be there. Joey Manu, an absolute beast. And I saw Leti. I mean, in the centres, it wasn't a try. It got called back, but, they're in and away, and the ability that he has, and we even see him kicking goals. There's a number of X-factor players in that team, but for me, it's the men in the middle as well. You've got Lodge, you've got Hargreaves, you've got a lot of Collins, you've got a lot of guys that you've got to put a stop to. If Nelson or Solomon did what he did through the middle last week, even though they don't have quite the same player individually, I think they'll be trying to do the same. They'll come through that, they'll knock on the door.
And speaking of our team, obviously, few changes forced by injury. One in particular I'm keen to see, young Tain Tuapiki, named at the one for both the NRL side and the Cup side. So,
big day.
Yeah, it could be a big day at the office for the kid. Luckily, he's still young, so he's got that youth about him. But I thought he was really impressive in his debut. Obviously, Chance is a massive loss. He's been outstanding for us. But what are you excited to see about Tain?
Oh, look, I just want to see him go again, because, I mean, the marks of a good first grader is consistency. It's effort on effort in the game and then week to week. And I've seen that from Tain from the moment I saw him. Ball of energy, really grateful for his opportunity. Came on a training trial and you wouldn't have known it, and he wasn't in awe of any of the players he was around, because I know for a number of years he would have been sitting back going, that's Shaun Johnson, that's whoever, Tohu Harris. But you wouldn't have known that he's a fan and that he was fanboying from day one, because I know he would have been. But he's been talking to them. He's been delivering what he needs to be doing. When he went from first grade down to the Cup, he played extremely well, and he took that experience to them to make them better. So he's a selfless little character. I shouldn't say little, because he's a pocket dynamo. I just want to see him have another opportunity, take the opportunity, play at home, because it's one thing to play in the cauldron over there at Townsville, but to play at home as a Kiwi boy and to put on that jumper, it means so much more than playing overseas. It's the best experience, so I can't wait that he gets to enjoy that.
The first name I looked out for on the team sheet was Wade Egan, because obviously down a couple playmakers in the middle there with no Tohu, maybe no Dylan. So it's exciting to get Wade back. I just think on attack, he controls that ruck so well. What have you liked about Wade's game so far, and how much of a boost will he be coming back into the side?
What haven't I liked about Wade? Like, I mean, a few years ago, I'm going to be honest, I was like, there was parts of his game where I didn't think he had, but like, he's the complete hooker at the moment. Like, in terms of the very best in the competition, he's up there with the top tier. We've seen him, he's a fine captain. He's well respected amongst the boys. His runs out of dummy half, his engine first and foremost, to be able to capitalise on the targets, when they throw themselves up or present themselves, as being outstanding. A very good try scorer as well. He's been really well in that department. A beast in the middle of the field. You mentioned Freddie Lussick, 53 tackles. He was on fire. He was a very good man in the middle of the field, and he'll probably get a chance again. But to have Wade out there, it's that calming influence, who can talk, who can, once he does that workload in defence, can still just transition into attack straight away and be really good. Mr. Harris, who's a big man in the middle of the field, who organises plays and helps set them up and creates, which is a bit of a foil for Shaun Johnson. Wade Egan will be the same. If you've got threats at dummy half straight away everyone tightens up, and then it leaves a bit more room for people like Shaun in there out wide. For sure. A couple of our new recruits in the second row, Jackson Ford, Marata Niokore, they've been really impressive for me, both on attack and defence. They've given us a huge impact. So what have you liked so far about those two's game? Well, Marata had a big game in the weekend as well in terms of metres and his tackles. I love the fact that we've got a big man on the edge, and he likes being a big man, and he can score a try. Very versatile. Went to the centres on the weekend for a little bit of the game, but big men who can play and run those lines makes a difference, because I think there's times, because we're not the biggest pack out there, but there's, especially when Adam goes off, but there's times when just that bigger body running a particular line makes that much more difference. It's a difference between poking your nose through and then getting down and a quick play of the ball and not. And that's often where the momentum comes, and then when Shawnee can jump on the back of. But he's a good man to have around the club. Jackson Ford has been a bit of a sleeper, man. I know Webby has loved him from day one. He's been turning up. He's been doing all the wrestling. He's been getting it right. He's just a guy who just gets on with the business. He does everything well. He's an ultimate professional. He's that consistent line runner on that left edge as well, which is pretty impressive. So, look, new recruits that have been wonderful, and when you've got Tohu out there as well, that's a very good back row combination. Unfortunately, Tohu won't be there, but those two give me a lot of confidence. Jackson Ford, he's also been a great Moneyball buy on NRL Fantasy. Yeah. I don't know if you play, but my son does, man. He does. He's trying to ropes me in, but man, it's crazy.
Yeah, Dimitri Sifakula, a name that Warriors fans will have seen named on extended benches for a few weeks now. Jersey 21, 22. He's getting a bit closer in Jersey 18. For fans that haven't watched a lot of the Cup side, maybe missed that trial game against the Tigers where he was really impressive as well. Can you tell us a bit about his game and what fans can expect if he gets a chance?
Aggressive, strong. Look, I think Demi or Dimitri is one kid that I can't wait to play great, and hopefully it's this week. but time will tell, because there's a lot of pressure involved in it, and you don't want to get in there too soon, too early, especially against a pack like that. But if he does get the opportunity, I think he'll go well. A very good ball runner, a great player, and you will have a look up for him because defensively he can put a shot on as well. So look, he's a great kid with a lot of X factor as well, and I think a player of the future for this club. But that future may be now. He may get a little bit of a taste this weekend, and what a way to go against some of the the legends, Jared Whitey, Hargraves, and all sorts. So it's a baptism of fire, but it's one that I know this kid would take on board if he gets that run. You got Zion Mau'u, you got a few others. Alilo Taua, who's potentially on that extended bench as well. So all three of those have been exceptional in Cup. And I think anyone would love the opportunity and would not let the side down.
Quarter of the way through the season, so just a couple general questions in terms of how the lads are tracking so far. Is there a player that's really impressed you or stand out? Maybe a bit of a surprise package. You mentioned Jackson Ford. Anyone else like that?
Dylan Walker, mate. Walks has been outstanding. Like I thought he'd be good. I didn't think he'd be this good. And I didn't think he'd be as diverse, not only diverse in terms of the variety of positions he can play, but how well he can play each position. Like you've seen him just slot into six, and it's been like he's played six his whole life. And we forget that he's played almost 200 games and that he's won a grand final. He's played Origin. Like he is a great player, and he comes here and he wants to play well. We've seen some of the press that he's put out that he just doesn't want to be a shit signing. Sometimes people come here and they take the mickey, and they come here on their reputation, and that's enough for them, and they'll get their money and they'll play okay. But he's been exceptional, man. And I know what he's been doing off the field in the training environment, the words that he's been saying, and just been lifting the players up with just real good intellect in terms of 40 IP, man. He's been huge. So he's been a surprise for me, although I knew he was going to be pretty good. I didn't think it would be this great. When we first came, Webb was talking about him in the 14 role. I was going, well, mate, put him in the centres. But like Webby's been bang on. He's been exceptional, man.
Yeah, we can trust in Webby for sure.
Oh, yes.
And has there been a moment, a kind of victory, or even just a special play or something that stood out for you from this year so far as a bit of a highlight?
I think the Cronulla victory over there against a team that's going to be top four. I think they'll be top four, top three, even top two Cronulla. With pretty much their full squad to pick from. With Nico Hines and everything, I think that's going to be a win that we'll look back on and think we've got real belief as a result of doing that, coming from behind, winning in a hard place to win, and against what is going to be one of the top teams in the competition. So for me, I think that's huge, and we can call back on that when we go forward and look at playing with these other top teams.
Looking forward to the next kind of month. We've got a bit of a tough run there. We've got the Roosters, Panthers over there for Magic Round, Doggies and the bye. What are you looking for from this kind of next little stretch?
Look, when I was playing, I never really wanted to go back-to-back in terms of losses, ideally, because, when you have that back-to-back loss, sometimes you feel you can get on a little bit of a run. Momentum in sport is key, and momentum can be good for you, but can also be bad for you. So I'm glad the game's at home, although this competition is very tough these days. I just want them to pick up some wins. And this is a really hard spot you're talking about, especially hard because of the squad. And I love how Webby refers to the squad. It's not about having your best squad available. It's just having your full squad to pick from. And then he feels happy with who he brings on board. So the reason why it's hard, and I was looking at this beforehand, and with your full complement of players in the squad, it wouldn't worry me the way the boys are playing. But now that they're sort of depleted in terms of their stocks and some of their key leaders and voices, it makes it a little bit harder. But like we're seeing with these boys, they don't mind hard. They just get up and play how they need to be playing because they're caring so much and loving it for their teammates. So I'm excited about how they're going to respond to Tuesday night and doing it at home, and then also what comes next after that. Penrith, everyone wants to play against the Premiers.
Yeah, 100%. And some of the fan questions, a lot of them were about the refs, so we won't go there because we don't want to get you in trouble. But let's reword it. Do you think the NRL has kind of done enough? They spoke about so much about the sacrifice the team made over the past 3 odd years being away from home. Do you think we've got enough reward? There was a lot of chat about every game should be a home game, things like that. Obviously, it's hard to do logistically, but what would you have liked to have seen?
Oh, a lot more, man.
Yeah.
A lot more. I think there was only one team that brought their home game here, and that's going to be the Tigers at FMG Stadium. When I spoke to the coach about it and sort of said, well done, why did you want to do that? He said it wasn't his decision. And I was like, oh, okay, that was your chance to sort of say you're trying to do something great for the Warriors. There hasn't been enough done. I believe 3 games in 11 days is just woeful as well.
Yeah.
The fact that they probably haven't even discussed that they could have had that ANZAC game at home. I think we're only one of 2 teams, maybe 3, that have got 3 games in 11 days. Is that a thank you for everything that the boys have sacrificed the last 2 years? I don't think so. Short memories, maybe. I like to think that they've got goodwill towards the boys, but you can tell me all you want, but sometimes you've got to show me, and that's what we'd like to see as a Warriors club.
A lot of questions about Roger as well, but I just want to get your initial reaction to it. How excited were you when you found out that the king of the calves, he was coming back home to Mount Smart next year? Oh,
mate, I was so happy. So I got off. I saw Bruce Sherrick a number of times, which is Roger's agent in here, but I thought, nah, don't get excited. It's
settle.
He knows Cameron George, so I think it's a funny thing more than potentially Roger coming over. But I got off the plane on Thursday night, coming back from America, turned my phone on and just went nuts, mate. And then I went nuts because, I was happy when SJ was coming back, but also RTS. I mean, it's unanimous in my household that he's our favourite player. And he's a wonderful player, and he's still got so much to give. So the fact that he's going to come back, and where the boys are now and what he can bring to take boys up another couple of levels is just so exciting, man. I gave him a message during the weekend today, bro. We're short of fullback this weekend. How do you what's your chance of coming back for a little cameo at Mount Smart? I won't give you the answers because he's hell-bent on being a Blues player this year and playing rugby union, but man, a wonderful boy. How happy are you about that?
Oh, man? It's extremely exciting, right? Obviously, loved watching Roger go about his work at the Warriors. You're always a bit gutted when a player like that leaves, but you understand, childhood dreams, so good on him, and he's done extremely well in rugby as well. Got to wear the black jersey, but just feels right him coming back to Mount Smart, eh?
Yeah. That's what I want to ask you too. It's the whole, a year ago, I would be thinking, we're a long way off playing finals football, and I'm not going to throw that out there and jinx us or everything else, or this club being in a situation or a position where I'm very happy and feel like we can do something. Where we are now, we've got another 2 teams coming on board. The cup team is playing so well. Roger comes back in. He came back in because of a reason too, because of what he's been seeing and what Webby's been promising and what they've been delivering on. Have you ever felt this good, or how long has it been since you felt this good about the club's chances? Oh,
it's been a while, probably since that 2011 run, where we got that momentum up. Certainly at this stage, this early in the season, it's so exciting. The current team going amazing, and then everything else is kind of falling into place. You mentioned those other teams coming in from next year, the recruitment. It's just unreal. And I think people underestimated our recruitment coming into this season as well. When you look at the names, they're all rep players, really. And then you got guys coming back home as well, which you love, and Chans and things like that. So as a fan, it's just incredibly exciting. And it's good to see everyone mentions the bandwagon, but it's just good to see that, I don't know, that public persona of the Warriors are just so high at the moment, eh? You wear kit to the supermarket and everyone's like, up the wires. And we weren't getting that a couple years back, so...
And I've got a company car, a Warriors car, and you see people look and they want to give you a wave now, especially where the boys are playing. So that's impressive. I guess I also want to talk about because everyone talks about the front office and about the people in charge. Obviously our fearless leader who's copped a little bit of flack, and also Cameron George. But this has been instrumental in the planning for a very, very long time. So maybe they deserve a little bit more credit for what they've been getting up to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing I find about, because I play rugby and that, and it's completely different over there. You would never get a CEO of a rugby team or anything just being so personable with you. Cam approaches staff, everyone, he knows everyone's name, he talks to the fans, he's just so approachable, he's happy to do media, all that kind of stuff. And I just think the effort that they put in behind the scenes, it probably hasn't been as highlighted as it should have been, but it's good to see now that they're getting some good stuff out there.
Yeah, and just, being a little bit closer and being here, throughout the week, I've been seeing full on what Cameron has been doing. I've been seeing what Robbo's been doing, and mate, they've been really good. Last year when people were talking to me about them and having their understanding or their opinions of them. I couldn't really talk too much, only but on face value. But right now, I just think they're wonderful men leading this club, man.
Absolutely. And there's been a lot of chat lately over the past couple of weeks, and it's been going viral on social media.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, because you are a club legend, are you an up the Wars guy, an up the Warriors guy, a go the Warriors guy, or is it just whatever? Anything's good? Because I'm an up the Wars guy.
Yeah, I noticed that, man.
I'm all about it.
Throughout the Wars.
I'm all about it.
I just, like Wars, like wow, like a baby crying, or just like wow.
Oh
like,
yeah, I didn't think about it like that. To be fair,
and when I first heard the Wars, I was like, man, who said that? And what are they saying that? It's a little while ago now, and I was like, I wasn't too sure about it because I like Warriors. It's got a bit more guts when you refer to them and that. But in saying that, if you are a true supporter, it doesn't really matter what term you use, man. If you use Wars or Warriors, so long you're a true supporter and you just get in and jump on board. But I don't know. You're a Wars man.
Yeah, I don't know. It just rolls off the tongue so well. And
does it sound formidable? Does it sound scary? Does it sound like a team that you want to support or push forward?
I see your point. Warriors is a bit more intimidating for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just probably that whole social media generation.
I think,
social
media generation. Everyone getting a little bit lazy these days.
It's just shorter. Right? It's just shorter. Rate it for sure. Yeah. And then just finally, the whole competition. It's so tight this year. We've seen. I think there's 1 point between second and eighth. So one win or even a bye, and you could be up the ladder so much higher. So I've heard Matty Johns and that talking a lot about it. They think the World Cup's had an effect on the competition so far, and that perhaps some of those top players are a bit fatigued, and that's affecting some of these top teams. Do you think that could be a factor?
Well, he's a very smart man, and I love hearing him and Cooper speak. Yes and no, because the clubs are really smart these days, and they've got all the GPS and everything set up so they know when they're overdoing it, when they need to have a break. But like we've heard many times before, the competitions aren't won in the first part of the season; it's won later on. So I think these guys will come right. And with Origin and other Test matches coming up, and there's a big year potentially of Test matches as well. It's just part and parcel of what needs to happen. But, guys get hungry. They get hungry for success, or they've had enough of being, down the ladder. So they're going to push for it every year. So I think that's probably more a result of why the other teams are coming through. Some great players, man.
Finally, before we let you go, big game this weekend, obviously. So we'll get your prediction. Roosters at home, sold out Mount Smart. Surely you're backing the boys to get it done.
I can never not back the boys, and that's even before the boys of this year have come about. Like I always back the boys, but like I said before, when I go to Sky and when I cover matches or when I commentate, now I actually go with the belief that we can win every game that we play. Before I was just like, I'm Warriors because I am Warriors. I bleed our colours, but now I actually believe it, and it's so much better to watch and witness. And as a fans, I'm sure the fans will be feeling the same way. They feel like they can really support and back the side. The Roosters aren't at their best at the moment. They got a 1 point win in the weekend against the Dragons, a tough clash. But I think this crowd at home, capacity crowd, could really help the cause. And whoever jumps up and gets the opportunity this weekend can really push. So I'm sure Webby's going to have great plan and insight into how they can beat the Roosters. And I know when you play a team the second time around, when you were so close the first time, and this time is at your home, that you quite often get in a situation where you can reverse what happened.
Well, that's us for another episode. Love talking footy with you, bro. So cheers for jumping on. Warriors fans, if you're at home, get out to Mount Smart Sunday Arvo. Buy some merch, wrap your rigs in some Warriors kit, get out there and make some noise. And hey, up the Wars, go the Warriors, whatever works. You've heard it from the legend. Just get there. Cheers, bro. Thank you.
Ciao about that.